Nick Draper joins us now in the first show in February. Nick, can you get us up to date with what's been happening?
Yes, Chris. Not good news. We've been working for a month on a deal that today was going to happen. We've turned up, the lawyers, Stu, myself, all at the studio. New host has arrived. He's gone in and 10 minutes into the contract signing, he's had a U-turn, decided to pull out, and that it's not the show for him. He's had the wobbles for whatever reason, and unfortunately we're left at the late stage now where you've got to put up with Stu and me.
The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
All right, everybody, and welcome to episode 119 of the 9 Years podcast. It is the first day of February 2018, and I'm Nick Draper, joined, as always, most of the time at least, by Stuart Deakins. Now, regular listeners will know that last week's show didn't go quite according to plan, so we're going to try again this week and have our chat about the cult of sacking managers in English football. But of course, lots of latest new AFC Wimbledon news to bring you as well. We'll be looking ahead to the Rotherham game on the weekend. We'll also have our George Long Road to Wembley competition. The MK caption competition will actually manage to broadcast this week. But before all that, we're going to look back at the fantastic 4-0 win at Valley Parade last Saturday. Now, last week, I was slaughtered for my negativity on this here podcast, considered by some to be a little bit too critical, perhaps a little bit unfair. Hey, look, my plan worked. I said Andy Barcham and Cody McDonald haven't done anything for months and months and months. They pop up with 3 goals between them. So I think I was fully vindicated. I think the squad and Neil Ardley obviously listen to the podcast every week, obviously hang off my every word, and they reacted accordingly. Now, that said, Stu, Neil Ardley did say after the game we were clinical. There's that great quote, I can't think of it exactly off the top of my head, where he basically said, we had 4 chances, we scored them all, and that's what you need to win 4-0. Well, yes, it kind of is, Neil. Yes, you're right. But aside from the margin of the victory, for me that was just another typical Neil Ardley Wimbledon performance. It was sit back, be very, very tight, be well organised, and then catch teams on the break when they leave space for us to exploit. And with a little bit of extra luck, I suppose, this week, some great finishing from us, some poor defending on occasions from Bradford, helped the scoreline. But really, it was just the scoreline that was surprising about that result, wasn't it? It was otherwise, as we've said, what we've come to expect from a Neil Ardley team away from home against a side in the top 6.
Yeah, I don't think the score flattered us either, if I'm being honest with you. Bradford, as bad as Bradford were in the goals they conceded, there's some car crashes of goals. But on the whole, I think the performance, we dominated possession, we had the better line, we looked at the team more in control. We looked at the team that actually were, if people had said who was a team was in with a playoff chance, you'd have gone, we were the team. I think we've now found a formation that works. We're boring, there's no doubt about that. We're not the most exciting team to watch. But then we've seen many a team that have done well in this league who are boring. So I was myself as being boring, as long as whilst we're winning.
You've picked up on the formation there straight away. So what's working better in this 3-5-2 than what was working in the 4-3-3 or even the 4-4-2 that we were employing earlier in the season?
It's just that your central areas are more protected. So from how I look at it, you've got your 3 centre-halves that are quite strong.
Hold on. Your essential areas are more protected does sound like an advert for some sort of sanitary product.
So if you look at any team that's decent is always going to have a strong spine. So for your goalkeepers, centre-halves, centre midfielders, centre-forwards. We just put more protection in them areas. So playing with the 3 centre-halves, playing with Darius, Deji and Barry Fuller, we're strong in the middle there. Sometimes, if you're going away from home, you might flap against 2 forwards. So we've got the 1 spare who can pick up. The 3 in midfield, they're all defensive type of midfielders. But what we tend to find is that two will sit, one will join in. So at the moment, the people that sit is Soares and Abdu, and Trotter normally goes and joins in, which is probably why he's looked more effective recently. But we're just strong down that middle. We don't do anything. We don't do anything special, but it's difficult for teams to break us down. The challenge is probably home games where if we played out at home, the home team is expected to go out and attack. At home, I think we're going to have to accept that maybe we're not going to be on the front foot in terms of pushing forward. But with the strikers we've got, with Lyle, Cody, and now Joe Pigott, we've actually got players that will probably, when we get that chance, and as you say, we had 4 chances, 4 goals, and we're going to be clinical in the few chances we get.
Yeah, I have mentioned before, I talked about this lack of seeming creativity in the side to break down those teams that are going to come. And like Portsmouth, for example, the best example we had this season on 2 occasions, who knew how to play us basically, don't allow us any opportunities to make things happen, don't give us any space to make things happen, stay tight and compact. That is going to be a problem over probably not the next week or so, but a bit further ahead because, as you say, the wins we've had, Southend and Bradford twice, in fact, Blackpool, teams that really, they struggled when they came out and tried to take the game to us, and that's when they got punished. So despite the fact this improved formation is 3-5-2, so solid in those central areas, especially with the 3 midfielders there, got to find a space, haven't we, for Harry Forrester to come in and make things happen.
Do we though? Does Harry Forrester fit into... Where do you find a place for him? You think about it, you've got your fullbacks, so you've got your wing backs now in Bartram and George Frankham. I've got his surname there.
There we go.
Wow. The thing is, George Frankham doesn't surprise you. He can play a position. I think he's a better right back than he is a right midfielder. He provides protection to Barry Fuller. I wouldn't say genius of Neil Ardley, but we've all appreciated that Barry's been caught out wide. So, he's got in... I think Barry as a right back, he can get isolated sometime with a winger. Where we play 3-5-2, technically you can double up. So George is good at right back, so George can get into that area and really Barry Fuller, if you've got somebody attacking him in central areas, can do a job. It's just when he gets isolated in the wings that if he gets a fast winger, he's in trouble. Bartram's the one that surprised me because he's done a really good job defensively. That's not really what he wants to do. So he's probably sacrificed a little bit of his attacking flair, but done a really good job in that sort of side. But I don't see where do you fit Harry Forrester, because I don't think he's going to fit in the middle 3. I don't think we now have that role where that sort of free role where you sort of pick up where you want to. I don't see in a 3-5-2 where he plays.
He just comes in, similar to the Northampton game earlier in the season. I reckon we've got them coming up, haven't we, shortly? Where in a game, in an awful game, back in, been October now, he can make something happen when it doesn't look like anything is going to happen. He wins us that game with a moment of quality, and that's all you're there for. You're going to have these times, surely, where as good a form as he's been in recently, Liam Trotter, as you say, the most forward of those 3 midfielders at the present time, hasn't got that ability to make something happen out of nothing. Which means that Harry Forrester might not do anything for 20 minutes, and then he'll pick up a bit of magic, and that wins us a game. Because, as good as form as we're on, we can't be thinking we're out of trouble yet by any stretch of the imagination. And we're going to have these times where we need, as you said very often on this podcast, where 1 point isn't enough. We need to be going out and not settling for that draw, going out and trying to find a winner somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just don't think... Harry Forrester isn't Neil Ardley's sort of player. It's like as if someone up north has just given us a call and gone, do you know what, he likes London, you're close to London, do you fancy him, you can have him for next to nothing. Because I don't see... I think Neil Ardley spent most of the first part of his loan spell trying to get him fit. Then when he tried to get him fit, he negated a lot of his strengths. If you think about... I'm trying to think of the couple of games he come on for, might have been Gillingham at home... There was a couple of games where he was excellent. But then gradually as Neil Ardley gets into you and Neil Ardley will accept anybody that's talked to him, he wants you to work on your defensive side just as much as your attacking side. I just feel at the moment, he's not the type of player that Neil will want to chuck in. Because you're right, yes, he could make something happen. But I don't think Neil wants you working in for 20 minutes without doing your defensive duties. Because I think he'd rather keep the point than try and risk the free. But I also think he's got better options, bringing Piggott in now. I think Piggott's a sub that would go in front of him. If he doesn't, then I think you've got other players. Andy Hodgson, he seems to want to bring Jonathan Meads on as well. So Dean Parrott comes back into the fold very soon. All of a sudden, you have to wonder. I'm starting to think now, do we really need Harry Frost to do send him back?
There's a few individuals then, let's pick up on there, because you've brought in John Meads into the conversation. So let's just pick up on him for a moment. Why is George Frankham, and I'm not going to take suggestions of any relationship between George and our manager whatsoever, although it wouldn't surprise me if later in the season we have a bit of a plot twist where it turns out that Neil Ardley is in fact George Frankham's dad.
That's a story.
Kurt Angle, Jason Jordan type storyline that the wrestling fans will appreciate. But yeah, why is George Frankham suddenly now getting in ahead of Jonathan Meads? I know Jonathan Meads had a bit of a wobble when he came back into the team. That seemed to be for me, more a battle of match fitness and match sharpness than a lack of quality.
Yeah, you're right. And you could argue that, Jonathan Meads could play that right wing back. He could play left wing back as well, couldn't he? He could play centre midfield. That's the beauty of Jonathan Meads. We've got in many positions. I think Neil Ardley he wants to try and stay with Bartram because I think if we do get the 3-5-2, your idea of 3-5-2 is get your wing backs out and really then push their fullbacks. Or if someone's playing up against 3-5-2 against you, it's really a battle of those wing backs who can push who back furthest the quickest, really. So I think he still wants to retain that attacking flair. So I think, again, we're finding a difficult role for Jonathan Meads to pick. I think at the right wing back, I like George Frankenbell. I think he's a better right back. I wouldn't say he's a better defender, but he's just, I think he's better all round in terms of his whole round game. His passing is good, his awareness is good, his positioning is good. I don't think George has done much wrong this season to really lose out his place. I think Neil Ardley, by hook or by crook, has come across a formation that what we started Spurs game, if I remember properly, that's when we started bringing it in a little bit. Although it was a 5-3-2, wasn't it? More than a 3-5-2.
It was more a 9-1-0.
Well, yeah, that's being generous, isn't it? But I think he stumbled across a formation, and do you know what? Even as much as we are boring, I'm quite liking the comments that are coming out against clubs that are playing us, like, we're boring, don't do nothing. Well, we did do nothing on Saturday, and we come away 4-0 winners. You can't argue against that.
As much as we are boring, you are talking about the team, of course. You're not talking about this podcast. We're never boring.
We're never boring, of course we're not.
No. Stop laughing at the back. Thank you. What about then individuals? Ed Gleed-Carger. I'll tell you what, talking about defensive solidity, and George Frankham there, you're saying how... Do you know what, actually, before I get to that George Frankham thing, we've talked about, this good run of form, perhaps coming because we're not making mistakes like we were, individual errors that were costing us goals earlier in the season, we're cutting those out. George Frankham, for all the criticisms, when he makes mistakes, they're not the worst mistakes. They're not going to lose you a game, are they? Pretty much, I think most people's complaints about George Frankham is the fact that, and I don't know why it's got so bad, actually, because it has. He has got worse, which is sad to say, but it's true. His deliveries. I can't deny that. I'm going back to when we had Akinfenwa. Maybe Akinfenwa made them look good. I don't know. George Frankham was outstanding getting on the ball. It was just get on the ball, take a touch, and sting it straight in. Great balls in the box every single time. More often than not now, maybe the pressure's getting to him, I don't know. He picks the ball up in a forward position, and that cross is going to often be either over or under hit. But he doesn't make those errors in defensively like we've seen, like perhaps you could argue, to go back to my original point, Jonathan Meads has or was making away at Portsmouth, away at Gillingham, and so on and so on. Home to Bradford, for example.
Yeah, but do you know what? It's really interesting. If we go back through the podcast this season, I've said I'm not trying to sound right by any stretch of imagination, but I did say we are overloaded with good centre-halves or good defenders. I think Barry Furr's had a very difficult season, but he's not going to drop his captain. But I said for a little while that I think the three at the back is something we could look at, but more of a case of Deji, Darius and Will Nightingale. That's the three I thought would be a solid part, a solid three. But I'm not surprised we've gone that way. I think a lot of teams really, if if you're solid through the middle, and we've got, in Darius and Deji, we've got probably, in my opinion, one of the two best defenders in the league, centre-halves in the league, followed by a goalkeeper that, when he makes a mistake, you're in more shock than anything, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? I think we're reasonably solid, and I think that foundation of not conceding goals, we've not conceded a league goal in January. I think that sort of stability then means that, because sometimes you can put pressure on Lyle and Cody, and as much as Cody says he wasn't worried about not scoring, he was. There's no doubt about that. But, you look at Saturday, all of a sudden you're going to keep a clean sheet, or you've got a very good chance, and Cody and Lyle can go and do the damage. And it takes a bit of pressure off them, and I just think at the moment we stumbled across formation that works, with a personnel that works, and I don't think he's going to differ too much from it.
No, and that brings me back to the point I was starting to make. Edgley Karja. So he travels up with the squad on Saturday, doesn't get in the squad, he's not even on the bench. Must be a massive frustration for a player. You're basically the standby member of the squad in that case, aren't you? And as much as you're right, the three centre-halves is working, how great it has to have these three central defenders, we don't need another three defenders on the bench, surely. I'm looking at Callum Kennedy, Paul Robinson, Jonathan Meads, all on the bench. I'm thinking, you haven't got room for Karja in there? Play him left wing, right wing, or if you need to swap the formation if things aren't going the way you wanted them to, surely he's a better bet to have there. Because otherwise, at the minute, I really do fear at the moment, that Karja and certainly Alfie Egan, there's no doubt about that one, more academy players, more young players that we're missing out on, or we're not giving the opportunities to, that we're probably going to lose.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. If you think about John Meads, yes, defender, but can play midfield, can play right wing back, can play left wing back, can play centre midfield. So I think he's there. He's more than one position. Paul Robinson, yeah, I agree. Why I think we all set up the Robbo's probably last season with us. That side of it. Callum Kennedy can again play the wing backs. I think we've struggled having forwards on the bench. We've got Joe Piggott now, and we probably hopefully have one in the window. But I do. The 3-5-2, it sort of sacrifices an attack in place. You play three in midfield. You're sort of sacrificing a winger, a forward, for that extra body in that midfield area, and then it weakens. As much as Edgy Carr just arrived on the scene at the moment, just like Harry Forrester, I don't see a position for him. Can he play wing back? I don't know. I know he's got the defensive nous for that, and he's not an out-and-out forward. So the academy is a problem, because it looks like I'll be amazed if Alfie Egan stays this year, and probably Edgy Carr may get a loan deal somewhere. So the academy is looking a little bit. His representation is really just, in my opinion, making up numbers to training, it seems.
The other thing is, Paul Robinson and Nicky Karja, if you're going to take them both up to Bradford, to my mind, Karja's the one that you put on the bench, because if Robbo doesn't get in the squad, his experience and his knowledge is something that's going to benefit. He's going to be a benefit to the squad, just him being there, in what he can offer in the dressing room or the advice he can give. Do you know what I mean? Edgley Karja's there. If he's not in the squad, I'm struggling to see what he offers us being there. But maybe that's another conversation for another day, perhaps. I don't want to labour that point too much.
No, I think you're right. I think, the Paul Robinson situation is, in hindsight, we're paying a salary out, and I think Robinson on a decent salary for next to nothing, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? I think, in hindsight, that's probably something we didn't need, because we're overloaded with centre-halves, or people that can play centre-halves. And we've sort of in a way, we haven't got the attacking awareness, have we? But, yeah, do you know what? I think at the moment we need to be happy with how we're doing, but we have sacrificed quite a lot going forward. And that could... I don't think it's going to catch that. I think we're fine. I don't see us having a problem, if I'm being honest with you. That might be famous last words. But I do look at academy next year, what we're going to do next year, because we've stumbled across formation. We haven't really been too sure what we want to do this season. We have to have some clear direction of what we're going to do next season, and our recruitment needs to reflect that as well.
Right, before we started recording, you said to me the magic words Liam and Trotter.
I did.
What would you like to reference in particular about Mr. Trotter this week?
No, do you know what? I find it. Everyone I suppose. Do you know what? George Frankham last year and the year before that. I think I always side on the people that everyone loves to hate. I think Trotter's got some awful stick this season, and sometimes deserved, but not always on his own. I feel there's been other players that have managed to get a bit of a free ride on the back of Trotter's relationship with the fans, if that's being fair. Do you know what I mean? But I think he's had an excellent month. I think he's now joined in. I think he's settled down a bit. I think it'd be nice if we could get away from the Trotter bashing that is becoming normal, and appreciate the good things that he's doing in the team.
Fair enough. That's well said. I've got to be honest, Stu, and say that Liam Trotter has actually gone up in my estimation. He's now my second favourite current Wimbledon player.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who's your favourite?
Everyone else is tied. I did do a Twitter poll on that point, just a very quick one. It was a flash Twitter poll. I was just interested to see who some of our fans thought was our best player in January. If we were to do a player of the month for January, which, if I read this correctly on Facebook earlier in the week, I think January's now been extended for another 7 games, which is unfortunate, but these things happen apparently. But no, I put 4 names: Jimmy Abdu, Deji Oshilaja, Lyle Taylor and Liam Trotter, to see who people thought had been our best player in January. And Liam Trotter did in fact come genuinely second in that poll. And did Deji Oshilaja, I said that very oddly, didn't I? Words got stuck in my throat for some reason. He actually picked up 50% of the vote. So he picked up half of all votes. Liam Trotter got 29%. Jimmy Abdu 40%, Lyle Taylor 7%. So it was an interesting conversation. Liam Trotter obviously has had a very good month. No one can deny that. Been influential for us this month. Some people have pointed, of course, to the formation change and Jimmy Abdu's role in that has been very important. But Deji Oshilaja might be one of those cases where a player, or a lot of fans, had made their minds up as to player of the season, probably back in September, October. But he keeps on proving us right, doesn't he? So Deji at the moment, can't really argue.
Yeah, and do you know what? And you know what? I think you've hit a nail on the head. I think Trotter has benefited from the fact of a formation change, and Jimmy Abdu by no stretch of imagination. I'm amazed. I'd love to know why we hadn't played him earlier. You know, I know he got sent off at Blackpool, didn't he? And then he got a ban, and then he had international duties. But it seemed as if there was. Hey, look, I sometimes read things in more than what there is, but it seemed as if there was some sort of power battle, or there was something that Jimmy wasn't doing, because there seemed no sense as to why Jimmy wasn't that team. But he has such energy to the team, and that three in midfield, yes, it's a boring defensive midfield, but it does an excellent job. But no, I think, you know what, I was looking with Trotter. I think the thing when you look back at his career, the guy's got 199 appearances at championship level. And I said ages ago, there's no way he got the deals he's got if someone didn't see something in him. And I think we're just starting now to see, I think he's inconsistent. He doesn't perform at the level he needs to all the time. But I think when he does put a performance in, the experience he's got, it's a benefit for us. So I think sometimes Trotter's got a bit unfair press on that sort of side of it. And I think, do you know what, if we get behind him and show him a little bit of the AFC Wimbledon love for our players, I think we're getting more out of him.
Long live Alexa Bliss, the one, the only goddess of WWE.
Okay, last week we spoke about managerial sackings. Of course, you wouldn't have heard that because we had all manner of production problems. We're going to try again to have our chat this week, although it's going to be a slightly abridged version, I feel, Stu, because one, we've already been speaking far too long about the week's events, and two, well, I think we kind of crystallised in our minds what our arguments were from last week, so it's going to make this conversation naturally a little bit shorter. But basically, the crux of our points were that in 2018 so far, 7 managers in the English Football League have lost their jobs, and 4 of those have been in League One. Exactly half of the total amount in League One that have lost their jobs over the course of the season. You look at the clubs that have so far parted company with their managers, have wished them well in their future endeavours. This was Northampton, Gillingham, Oldham, Southend, Milton Keynes, Oxford and Bury on 2 occasions. 26 managers in total have lost their jobs in English football so far. So we've talked about percentage terms. I mean, in League One, that's a third of managers. That's ridiculous. 26 managers, so we're just over a quarter. We came down to the conclusion we're always going to have this problem now because of the way football is and the way that clubs don't seem to appreciate that for many of them, especially at our level, when you've got how many teams? So 4 down, don't we? We have 4 down. At the end of the season, 4 teams are going to get relegated. Whatever happens, no matter how many times a manager is replaced or removed or whatever, 4 teams are always going to get relegated. Only 3 teams are going to get promoted out of this league. So a lot of clubs are stranded in a little bit of mediocrity for the most part, but that's not a bad thing. I don't see why there's such this rush to change your managers. If you give him the time, you can probably benefit more in the long run, surely. That's the argument. So, as I asked you last week, though, am I not just whistling into the wind, really? Because asking for a culture shift, really, it's not going to happen, is it? This is the way it is, and I can't see why this will change.
No, and I think League One, you've had a few this year, haven't you, where you obviously Phil Brown at Southend. Actually, I get that one. I think he probably done well to see out another season because they've spent well. He's had good squads and not managed to get them out of the league, which is what they want. The Oxford one, I think Oxford went for a totally different direction, didn't they? Oxford had got money. If you remember, they've sold some players for decent money. If you think Ruth went to Leeds, I know they got good stuff for him. They reinvested it. They went for a Spanish manager this year, which is different to what League One clubs normally do. It obviously didn't work. Bury just spent ridiculous amounts of money. And all they've got as a team now full of players that have no interest in being in Bury and are just there for the money. But I think, I think the managers, I think they need some protection. I think something I very much would. It's very easy to sack a manager, isn't it? And managers then, because they know that they probably, I don't know what the shelf life is, but I think in certain leagues you do well to get a year employment on average. If the managers could have protection where they could be sacked during a season, you might see. We moan about the Checker Trade Trophy where we've got youth teams coming in there not getting games. They're not getting games because their managers are shit scared of playing them because it's a results business. They haven't got time to develop anybody.
This is what I mean about results business. Oxford United, you've mentioned they went for a change of direction with their manager. Why is that change of direction? Why does it have to be so sudden? Why could they not wait 1 season and give him a whole entire season in charge, actually let him adjust to being a manager? Because his roles in the past, haven't they? He's been assistants and coaches and things. He's never been the sole man in charge, has he? So why do clubs not give people the opportunity to develop professionally, to improve? Why is it instant gratification every single time?
Well, they're under pressure for the moment, aren't they? So, and do you know what? Us fans, I say us, you and I are quite realistic with the club we support, and I think that's why Neil Hardy got a lot more time when he was going through a difficult period. I'm glad we did that as a club because I think we should have values in terms of respecting our manager and giving him time. Not too much time, not being unrealistic, but I think we have good values. But fans put pressure on. So we know Oxford fans, we've been there, haven't we? So the moment anything goes wrong, they start. But social media is not good nowadays. So the moment you have a couple of defeats, well, why don't we get someone else in? Why are we not spending money? Why are we not buying that player? I think it's just the business nowadays. But I remember Jose Mourinho when he went to Chelsea. They were talking to him about he had all the same youth players coming through as what you got now. But he was blunt and said, I haven't got time to play the kids because I need results now. So he was honest. He was honest with the fact that why would you play kids? It's a result business, but it's an instant result business. In a Premiership, you lose 4 games on the spin and you're in trouble. So why is it any wonder why managers don't trust? We've got a manager ourselves. We pride ourselves on our academy, as we discussed earlier in the podcast. You don't trust them because, again, it's a result business. We don't want to get relegated. So, vicious circle, and the managers are always under ridiculous amounts of pressure from everywhere, fans, board, and sometimes players.
The clubs also, though, need to reevaluate their expectations. I know people are going to sigh probably hearing me say this, but Watford are another team, another club that have got rid of their manager. Again, they turn over managers like no one else's business. What are they realistically hoping to achieve or expecting to achieve? Where were they? They were 10th in the Premier League when they sacked their manager. Watford, 10th in the Premier League. And, all right, not on the best run of form, but that's very short term in the grand scheme of things. And they're sacking their manager. What do these clubs honestly expect or anticipate from their seasons?
I don't know. Watford, how many managers have they gone through now? Loads, isn't it? It seems like one a season.
This month.
It does. The Premiership just has different rules, though, doesn't it? But I don't tend to have any sympathy with managers in the Premiership because the money that's going around in that, they all get paid off their contracts. So they're well looked after, let's be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? In the Premiership, once you get a job, you're going to be well looked after. Whether you go back into another job is another story, do you know what I mean? But we do seem to have a situation of a few managers being recycled, just Allardyce, Pardew, Moyes, Pulis. They all seem to have a merry-go-round in Premiership in Premiership clubs, don't they? But Watford, I heard something the other day, someone say their model's good. They progressed every time they got a new manager. But what's Watford's objective? Right?
Yeah, they can't continue progressing. There is a ceiling. I'm sad to say
that's what a lot of Premiership teams are finding out now. You can't break into that top six. You can't drop in to the top four. Arsenal can't even drop into the top two now. So you've got leagues within leagues, haven't you? And then you've got your Champions League, which is your holy grail, but you do well to get out of the groups. So if you're Arsenal, you just pray you don't go in here Bayern Munich. But yeah, I think the managers, you've got your directors. I think nowadays, I think you're safer to be a director of football. They're the ones that seem to be the last to go or get sacked, aren't they? They normally get 2 or 3 managers before the chairman realises it's not the manager, it's the director of football's problem. But it's a cutthroat business. It's a shame it's coming down to League One level as well, because when you get down to League One level, you haven't got managers on big salaries.
No, that's
when you're frightened to lose your job, yeah. When you're frightened, I think you and I, we both have jobs, but the moment you and I have become frightened that you're going to lose your job, you can't say that you perform to the best of your ability. So you've got managers in League One who are literally under pressure to lose their livelihoods. And the chairman are so quick to push that panic button. And in the end, getting no real better service from another manager than they would have if they kept faith with their current one.
No, it's impossible, as you say. If you're nervous about things, you're impossible to perform, really. But, I mean, you say managers are looked after or well looked after. At the top end, yes, of course they are. But they're looked after financially very, very well. As you've touched on there, lower down the pyramid, those finances aren't quite the same. And that's being generous. That's an understatement to say they're not quite the same. They're a lot different. But also, are they looked after? This idea, like I said to you, giving a manager like Clotet at Oxford, what's he had? Half a season, basically, and then he's gone. There's no time for him to improve. And any job, I've never experienced it in my working life, a job where, I'm sure there are instances of it, but for the most part, for the majority, I'd say the overwhelming majority of people in their day-to-day jobs, their day-to-day roles, their careers, whatever, they are supported to improve. It's part of the deal, really. You go to a place of work, they put things, if you're not performing as well as you should be, they'll put matters in place to help you get there. They'll support you to get there. They'll put you on training courses, all these sorts of things, these professional development ideas. I mean, I don't know, from the outside looking in, Neil Ardley, is he getting anything like that? I would suggest not. I would suggest, as he said, and look, he's quite happy with this, and I'm not going to deny we all would be. He said that he pretty much has the run of the place in terms of no one really tells him what to do in his job. He gets to make those decisions. But there are times, as much as that's great, there are times you do need a little bit of support, experience the right kind of support to help you do things differently or do things slightly better.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're weird. Our setup is just very weird, isn't it? So different. If you think about the model, very different to probably most clubs in League One. I think you could argue. So we have a manager. We have we probably have one of the smaller management teams. I don't know about you, but when I look at most management teams coming down to Kings Meadow, they tend to outnumber us in terms of how many management people.
I thought you were saying like
so.
Simon
I mean, the whole
Bassey's
management teams.
Simon Bassey's like 5'10".
But no, I don't know if you remember Wigan coming down, but Wigan had about 10 or 15 actual
fans,
backroom staff, fans, yeah. But yeah, we don't have a director of football. I'm not saying loads of League One clubs do, but else, really, we have no one to go to. So I know we have Harry Bassett, who was involved in recruitment with Neil Arlene, but we don't really know how involved is he now. So in terms of Eric Samuelson, where does he go to get his football advice from? So I think Neil Arlene's fortunate in the club he's at because he has a chief executive who is very supportive and stubborn. He doesn't. I think one thing we could probably say is that Eric Samuelson doesn't really respond or give in to social media. He reads it. There's no doubt about it. He reads it. I think he takes it with a pinch of salt. I think he supports his managers very well. So really, Neil Arlene is in a perfect club to make errors because he has made errors. Equally, he's made some good decisions as well. But other clubs, they panic. And remember, I think we were chatting. There's a statistic going that if you don't get back into a manager's job in 3-4 months, that's it. You're forgotten about. There's so many ex-managers out there that you can forget about. Chris Powell's just gone into the Southend job. I'm sure we all forgot about him being available to do a job and look at the jobs he's done when he was a manager, but you're very quickly forgotten. So, yeah, managers, it's a lonely job, it's a pressurised job, it's a horrible job, and you're critiqued by your fan base every week. you and I,
I don't know what you're on about. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, you and I, we have a manager who will give us a one-to-one or in a private environment. Well, when you're a football manager, your one-to-one is done on social media on a Saturday. And you've got to have thick skin. Very, very thick skin. And, there's no support. It's, I think you hear the manager say, don't get too up when you win and don't get too down when you lose. Because they always know there's a horrible day around the corner.
It's fascinating to think about it. But, yeah, there are things there you say that are great about this club. Like you said there, he's in a great club to make errors, to make mistakes. I just feel like we are, by a long shot, not the only club in that position. There are many, many clubs up and down the pyramid. You can make these mistakes, and you know what? The clubs will stand by you because they're going to benefit in the long run. Everyone's going to benefit in the long run. You'll improve as an individual, as a manager. Hopefully that longevity then helps create a culture at the club, whatever it might be, like you said, with academy bringing through that sort of thing, or a style of play or a philosophy, whatever it is. And I think you're seeing smaller clubs are better at doing this, I suppose. I mean, Keith Hill at Rochdale, didn't he? He left them of his own volition, didn't he? But then he came back, and he's been in charge for quite a long time now over the course of the two spells. And Rochdale are probably a similar club to us, where they might go down this season, but they're realistic enough to know that they're Rochdale. Same as Exeter are realistic enough to know that they're Exeter. Paul Tisdale is doing a great job for many aspects of the club, whether or not they're in League Two or League One, or as they were when he started in the conference.
But they're two great examples in terms of last year, Keith Hill, even when they were doing well, he was so keen to go, we are overachieving. It was as if he knew that this season was going to come at some point. We've been to Rochdale. It's not a big club. That's being polite.
That is the nicest thing anyone's ever said about Rochdale.
Yeah, and I don't really about Rochdale because you know what? They've done well in League One.
Oh, they've done fantastic,
punching above their weight. But it did make me chuckle last year where he was very keen to point out whenever he could they were overachieving, as if to prepare himself for this sort of season, that sort of side of it. But he's obviously got a chairman who understands the situation and stuff like that. But Exeter's a great one as well. Paul Tisdale's basically got a season ticket for the manager's job, hasn't he? He basically just renews it every year. The club, I think he's even. Am I right? I think they basically the Exeter Trust have given him he has to have 2 years' notice or something. So I think they've already said they're not going to. I remember reading that they're not going to renew his contract, but it's like a 2-year grace period. So there's something about. I'll try and get some more details about that. But if you look at the actual talent that he's had the last couple of seasons and sold for profit from the academy, that's where they're getting their reward now. So Exeter, I'm not sure of you, Bob, but they've gone through difficult periods where they haven't really done much. But they got Watkins. Watkins was sold to Brentford in the summer, wasn't he? Wheeler went to QPR. There's loads of examples where they're now starting to see the benefits of their long-term plan. But not many clubs have a long-term plan.
We have a medium-term plan on the 9 Years podcast to open up the debate to you. So we're going to put a thread on our Facebook page, facebook.com/9YRS podcast, and we're going to just basically open up a forum for you to have your say on the situation with managers, and do we do enough to support managers up and down the Football League? It'd be fascinating to hear your views. So find the thread on our Facebook page. Well, up now as you're listening to this. I am sort of tying up, Stu, because we've got a lot to get through. So I'm going to speed through the next two segments. Number one is the George Long Road to Wembley. Got a bit bored, to be honest with you, Stu. At the moment, we're not getting past West Brom, so I'm going to get rid of West Brom really, really quickly this week. Stu, what is West Brom's nickname? That's the question. Round 3, 30th year anniversary of our FA Cup win, recreating our road to Wembley with a third round tie with West Brom. What's their nickname?
They're called the Baggies.
Hooray. Right, next.
Boing,
Mansfield.
boing, 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 boing.
You're right.
Oh, yeah, I still get stuck on Mansfield as well.
Well,
who's their manager? Steve Evans. Yeah, 5th round.
Sadly not. It wasn't quite that easy. Who was the last Wimbledon player to score a goal against Mansfield?
Really? When did we last play them? Okay, let's think. Who scores many goals against Mansfield? Let's go for. I'm going to get it wrong, aren't I? Lyle Taylor.
You're going for Lyle Taylor?
Or Bayo.
Which Bayo?
Or Tom Elliott. Adam, I can remember.
What's your final answer, Stu?
I'll go for Aziz.
Good choice. That is correct.
I've covered all 4 there, haven't I?
Yes, and I didn't commit to any of them.
John Fasher, Dean Holsworth, and
Aidan Newhouse. Yes,
Aidan Newhouse. What a forward.
I have to mention him in the Stuart Ripley lane of random footballers that we like to celebrate on this podcast.
Used to wear very tight shorts. He did. He did. I think you ever noticed. He always wore the most tightest shorts. He was like, "Can you get like Terry Gibson?" Never could find a shorts that's big enough for him. Anyway, we digress.
Just a tad. I actually rendered me speechless. All right. Well, that's the best soundbite we're ever going to have on this podcast. Right. Finally, then we're into the 5th round. Newcastle. You've got a chance with this one. In 1996, Alan Shearer marked his home debut by scoring against us. His home debut for Newcastle by scoring against us. Who scored Newcastle's other goal in that 2-0 win?
David Batty.
You were there that day, weren't you?
I was. I remember the goal because David Batty hit from about 25 yards. And you're thinking, if he's going to score that, you're going to lose the game because he couldn't. Yeah.
Did he wear longer shorts?
He didn't. I just still remember that. I still remember that Shearer debut. I've never seen it since. Hysteria.
I know, because he can only debut once.
It was just, Newcastle. Sir James Park for me. Sir James Park for me has got the best atmosphere, but that night it was rocking. Yeah, great atmosphere. We lost the game.
If you'd like to hear more about that game, listen back to episode 1 of the 9 Years podcast, where on a show about the best Wimbledon debuts we'd ever seen, Stu picked Alan Shearer for Newcastle against us.
Yeah, I did.
Yes. How about then? 6th round, quarter-final. Here we go. Right, serious business now. Watford. We played Watford in an FA Cup third round tie in 1996. We won a replay 1-0. Who scored the goal?
Oh. Something tells me it was Neil Ardley, but I don't know if I'm thinking that because of the connection. 1996 would have been. Yeah, something tells in the Arlie, but I'm not too sure. I think I'm wrong.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Ah, it's the wrong answer, Stu. I can't believe you've been knocked out by Watford of all teams.
Who was it?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
The best forward we ever had.
That's not true, is it?
It is, because he's the best forward we ever had, because he used to. John Fashanu used to look into the air in disbelief, because nobody ever had a chance of knowing what Andy Clark was ever going to do. If he ever had a brain, he could be one of the best forwards we have ever, but he had no idea what he was doing himself.
Fair enough. MK caption competition, which I'm going to also cut slightly shorter than we did last week, because I'm not going to read out every single answer we got. I'm sorry. Hey, look, there's not really a prize this week, so if you don't get read out, you're not losing out on anything. So I'm just going to pick some of my personal favourites, Stu, and then judge your reactions, and we can decide a winner. So basically what this was the Milton Keynes fans that stole the sign off our team coach when we went up to Buckinghamshire a few weeks ago, posed with a photo on it on Twitter. I edited it to put a different message on the sign they're holding up. So we've got four kids in hoodies holding up a sign that says, stole a league place 16 years ago, and all we got to show for it is this lousy sign. I then invited you to come up with your own slogans, and we're going to pick the best. So some of the entries, let's start with Zach Thompson. Between the four of us, we might be able to read this. Very good. Trevor Medwell. Anyway, got to go, boys. Got school in the morning. That's just true. I mean,
It is.
it's just true. Jason Barrett. This might be my favourite. Missing. Please contact the EFL if you can find the absent 6,000 scum from our official club attendance of 9,000. I'm not sure.
I like that.
Not sure we'll be able to Photoshop it all onto one sign, but yes, that St Albans crowd calculator that they used that day. Lots and lots and lots of people dressed as black seats. Let's go through Ray Armfield. Not in the wider interests of Stone Island. They're certainly not getting modelling jobs with them, are they? Gary Fletcher, I shouldn't laugh at this, but Winkleman touches us.
He does, yeah. I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, that's allegedly. Allegedly, we must say. Simon Hazel, we know what we are. We know what we are. Gary Wilkes, Theresa May is trying to ban plastics. Please donate to help us fight back. That's good. That ties in so many. That's good. That's clever. That's smart. I like that. Like that a lot. James Hill. 1 in 4 ugly people don't cover their faces. Please donate £10 by texting HOOD to 82232 today. These are very, very good. Rich BN heading into League 2, time to steal another club. And finally, Chris, just because I think this is just a blatant rip-off of my one, so I don't know what he's trying to get away with, but yeah, my brother Chris, I was promised a football frenzy with Premier League football, and all I got was this lousy sign. Which, yeah, plagiarism there, really.
Yes, Chris.
Yeah. So, yeah, favourite, your winner of that lot? I know we sped through it. We didn't get as much time as we would have preferred to, but
mine would be the 6,000 empty seats.
Okay, Jason Barrett.
Yeah, I really like that.
Really like that one. I like Gary Wilkes. So I think as there's not actually a prize to give, it's fine. Just co-winners. Co-winners.
Yes. We have 2 winners.
2 winners. Oh no, hold on. There's a late entry.
Oh.
This is only because okay, Doug Hammond I don't think can qualify to win this because he does enter quite a few times, so to speak. He's got four entries. Wenger out. Down with this sort of thing. That's a Father's Head reference, I don't think would work for you, would it? And then finally, will suck cock for pennies. It's so juvenile.
Oh, it is.
But it's so funny.
That's the people that nicked Aberdeen's sign.
Yeah,
well, not our sign. Yeah, a good friend, Ian Robinson's sign.
It was Ian Robinson's sign.
Oh, so I don't know what he's going to do. He'll have to let us know. Does he have to go and purchase another one?
Yes, I think that's already been done. I think a replacement has been purchased.
Did he have insurance on the sign?
Oh, who knows?
Was he? So many questions.
There are many, many questions of which I've never thought of and probably will never again. But thanks anyway. Rotherham away. on Saturday.
Yes.
Tough game. Two form teams in League One. Rotherham are up to 6th in the division. They've done very, very well, in fairness, especially considering, well, they've not lost since the 2nd of December, but for half of that time it's been done without Kiefer Moore, who's gone off to Barnsley. Who are their threats now, then, in his absence?
Well, David Ball, they got from Fleetwood, if I remember properly. He's their second top goal scorer. Their top goal scorer was Kiefer Moore before he left to go to Barnsley. So they're the threats. You look at it, Michael Smith's gone there. He's got his third club of the season, so obviously didn't work out at Bury, but I don't think anything's going to work out at Bury. By all accounts, we know we obviously saw Barnsley. We obviously saw Rotherham early in the season, and they played no frills football. They knock everything long, and Michael Smith's probably one of the best target men in the division. So I think we know what we're going to deal with. I think our 3-5-2 will work perfectly against the way they set up. I think we've got a good chance. Rotherham are first, though. It's probably the game of the League One programme, because it's, in terms of form guide, it's first versus fifth. Rotherham being first, but we're fifth in the form guide. I looked at their home form. They're third in the home form table, so they play 15-1-9. That's quite a lot. So they're good at home. Our record's not good at their place. We haven't played in about 5 years, but we haven't scored there. So there's a lot of things we have to do right. But if you ever go to Rotherham, I would go to Rotherham on the form we're on at the moment. So I'm reasonably hopeful.
Going to venture a scoreline prediction?
0-0.
Oh, come on. You've stolen my
I think
gimmick.
I think it'd be a goal of straw. I don't think we concede. I think we'll make it very boring, which we've done elsewhere. And I think we're quite happy to take a draw, bearing in mind we go to Bury on the Tuesday night, which is, even though I don't think we're going to get relegated, it's a 6-pointer. You can't get away from that, because you want to really knock Bury out of the equation as quick as you can.
I'm going to go for a thrilling 5-4 away win, similar to Southampton's 5-4 away win at Norwich City in 1994.
So you're going from your traditional 0-0 now to a 9-goal thriller.
Yeah, not only that, Ken Monkow is going to come and score the winner for us. He's going to sign on midnight on transfer deadline day, and just like he did at Norwich for Southampton all those 24 years ago, he's going to score the winning goal.
Well, don't forget also that we've also got an ex-loan player. We have Semir J.
Yes.
On loan from Cardiff, and he's now centre-half and playing regular League One football. So isn't it weird how many players that we've had on loan from Academy, especially Cardiff, that we end up meeting along in League One football? So, Michael Smith, we took on. The irony of Michael Smith was that we took him on loan because we couldn't get Joe Piggott from Charlton. It's a weird old game, isn't it?
It's a funny old game. Rotherham hopefully won't be that funny, and hopefully we'll get a good result. And updates will be available on Twitter at 9YRS Podcast. Also, facebook.com/9YRS Podcast. Hopefully, technology, we know what it can be like. Marco Cura, who did a fine job on Saturday at Bradford, will be broadcasting live from the New York Stadium. So please, if you don't follow us on Facebook, check it out and get his updates pre, post, and at half-time. Pre-post and at half-time? Pre-match, post-match, and at half-time. That makes more sense.
But did he do a great job, didn't he?
He did do a very, very good job.
For his debut, he made us look very amateurish, because we weren't that good when we started. Not that we've got much better now.
I was going to say, have you seen us? Have you ever watched us?
But yeah, I was a little bit like Marco. I wasn't wishing Marco to make a mistake, but I'm like thinking, you're making this look too easy. So no, it's really good to have a northern. I don't know about you. It's really good to have a northern branch of our Facebook Live. Because we haven't been able to get to as many away games as we wanted to this year, and it was good to see Marco and Stuart, and I have to say Steve Nuttall was the funniest person ever at half time, because all he gave Marco was one-word answers. It was the most funniest thing ever. So well done, Steve.
And also well done to Andy Dixon. Thank you very much, Andy, for another great match report. That's available on our website, 9yrspodcast.org, his report from the 4-0 win at Brentford. So if you've not read that yet, check that one out and get his opinion on the game that we reviewed earlier on this week's show. Before we sign off, a few announcements. Number one, a little bit of a mini rant follow. So we're talking about updates from Bradford. A lot of our fans rely on these because they're amount of problems they are experiencing with iFollow is becoming a little bit ridiculous, to be honest with you. And we've had a number of people contact us to ask us to see what we can do. Nothing we can do, unfortunately, but we can just highlight the problem and try and get to the bottom of it. So please, if you're having any problems with iFollow, please always let the club know. They, of course, will work as hard as they can to fix it and resolve any problems you are having. But also, I think the Football League and the suppliers of the technology also need to sort of really get a move on, because this has been going on. We're in January now. It's been 6 months, and people are still having the same problems with audio and visual that they were having at the start of the season. So if you have contact the club, please do. If you'd like to let us know if you've had any problems, we'll pick up your calls for you as well. But also don't forget Don's Trust are there as well to do these sorts of things. So maybe get in contact with the Don's Trust board as well. But we know it's happening. We are having conversations as well, and we should get back and see if we can do anything for you guys. Luke McKenzie, just want to wish him a happy birthday for the week. How old is he now, Stu?
Yes. Happy 50th to Luke.
50th
It must be
birthday.
50.
Wow.
He looks 50, to be honest with you. I don't think he is, but happy birthday, mate.
Yeah, coming from you, Stu, but there we go. Yes, happy birthday, Lukey. Friend of the show, appeared, I can't remember the episode number, but great show we had with Lukey talking about his time as a steward at the club and a top 7 list, which was much appreciated back in the day, back in season 2 of the podcast. And that finally is everything. So thank you very much for joining us this week. Stu, thank you very much for joining me.
No problem.
And please join us again next week when we're going to be joined by Mastermind host John Humphreys to ask him whether Harry Potter is ever an acceptable specialist subject for an academic adult quiz. And if it is, do you think I'll be allowed to come on the show to answer questions on female WWE wrestlers between 1996 and 2018? Speaking of which, Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next week.